A quick recap of Lesson 3. We looked at methods to determine your target market, the targeting options available within the top digital channels, customer journey maps and consumer touchpoints, and then finally remarketing. We've done lessons 1, 2, 3, and we are now in lesson 4. At the end of this lesson, you will be halfway through this module. Well done. Remember, this is the first module of 4. The course is a total of 16 weeks, with the first module being 4 weeks. Let's look at the questions we're going to be answering today. We're going to look at the impact of mobile within marketing and the user experience, the importance of mobile speed and tools to improve this, mobile-friendly landing page recommendations, and the benefits of having an app. I touched on this briefly in lesson 3, but if you stick with me, I've got some bonus content at the end of this lesson. This is a bit of fun. According to a Boston Consulting Group study that they did in 2018, more than 3 in 10 people would stop seeing their friends in person instead of giving up their smartphones. 45% said they would delay going on vacation. 46% would be willing to give up a day off per week. More than 55% would rather stop dining out for 12 months. What would it take for you to give up your smartphone? Mobile internet usage. Just want to show you a bit of a year-on-year comparison, just to show you how much it's grown. Look at that. From 2014 to 2019, in 2014, it started off with just 26% of total internet usage. And in 2019, we're not even done yet, it's on 48%. And as you can see, it's just increasing year on year. No one can afford to ignore mobile, and here's why, or at least a few reasons why. Nearly 80% of internet usage is expected to be mobile in the next year. Average conversion rates are up 64% compared to desktop. 40% of people search solely on a smartphone. 62% of organic searches provide different results, and that is because Google, since 2014 or 2015, have been prioritizing mobile-friendly sites above sites that aren't mobile-friendly. So that's why they will differ depending on the device that you're looking at. Global projections are that traffic will increase nearly 3 times on mobile by 2021. Exciting times ahead of us, guys. Let's look at the good old mobile versus desktop war. The mobile user context changes frequently. What I mean by that is their location, their attention span, their connectivity, and how people even use their devices. It changes so much more than the behavior does on a desktop. Mobile users prefer short, simple interactions. No one's writing an essay on a mobile phone. They'd rather do that on desktop. Mobile offers a huge source of personal data, more so than desktop. Things like messaging, galleries, location accuracy, profile photos, app data. It sounds pretty scary, but marketing platforms, and I assure you of this, aren't allowed to gather any personal data without your prior permission, and your name will never be attached to it. Mobile provides different forms of input versus a desktop mouse. So, for example, on mobile, you can make a phone call, you can use a touch screen, there are keypads, so there are many different forms of input. So I mentioned responsive and mobile-friendly sites. We're going to take a look at the difference between these now, starting off with responsive websites. A responsive website changes based on the device that you are using. Layouts change from multiple columns to a single one to make it easier to use on mobile. Unnecessary images are hidden. And on desktop, you can actually tell if a website is responsive by reducing the size of your browser window. Try it now. Go onto a site, any site, and just reduce the size of your window ever so slightly. And if you see the content and images changing, adjusting essentially to the new size, then it's responsive. The core responsive site features are that it has dynamic content, so it means it's changing, it's not static. Condensed menus or navigation, essentially making it easier or making it take up less space on your mobile screen. Optimized images, here they would either change size or they would disappear completely, depending on how usable it would make the website experience. Correct spacing is applied, so there's never an instance where it'll look like something weird is happening on the site. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And finally, it relies on mobile operating systems to function. It needs to be aware of the operating system so that it can respond accordingly. Moving on to mobile-friendly websites. A mobile-friendly site is designed to work the same way across devices. Nothing is unusable, but usable does not translate to optimized. Features like menu drop-downs and small buttons aren't used, generally because they're really hard to get working correctly across every single device if you're not creating a specific responsive design. And then the core mobile-friendly features is that it has static content, so it doesn't move. So if you were to take another site and move your browser window and nothing changed or changes, that would be, well, it might not even be a mobile-friendly site, but it's definitely not responsive. Simple navigation, as I mentioned just now, it just makes it easier to manage across all the devices that the site is being used on because it's not responsive, and therefore you don't want any kind of complex things getting in the way and making it appear strangely on a Samsung S5, for example. Smaller images are used, again, just because they can't change. They're completely static, so it makes more sense. It doesn't rely on a mobile operating system to function because of, at its core, it's one program, let's say, designed to work across multiple devices. It's not like a responsive site, which is almost designed for each device. How do you know which is best for you? If you're looking at responsive, this is the superior of the two for user experience, but it does require a lot of expertise, planning, and a larger budget. If you aren't a seasoned developer, then I would definitely recommend outsourcing something like this if you're planning it. Choose this option if most of your site is being viewed from a mobile device, you have complex content and website features that are tough to use on mobile, you don't want to have to deal with frequent updates. I mean, who wants to deal with those? You want your site to remain modern for longer. On those last 2 points, the reason why you wouldn't have to update them and why it would look modern for longer is purely because of the fact that it is responsive and the design does change based on the device that it's being used on. Looking at mobile friendly, you can achieve consistency across devices, but you may not be able to add sophisticated features and functionality. If you add strange menus or images that are too large or buttons that are actually hard to click with a thumb versus a mouse, then responsive is something that you should consider. You can choose this option if you don't have a lot of volume to your site. your site is simple, you have a small budget or smaller budget, and your site does not have many pages. What businesses or brands often do is they first go with a mobile friendly site and then opt for the responsive site. At the end of the day, as long as your site is one or the other, then you won't be penalized or unfavored by Google's algorithms, as an example. Website speed, super important. How does slow speed affect you? A 1 second delay in response time can result in a 7% loss in conversions. That is pretty mad. In 2000, our attention spans were about 12 seconds. They are now less than 8 seconds, and scientists believe smartphones to be a contributor to this. Poorly optimized sites can increase your PPC costs as speed contributes to your ad rank, which affects your CPCs. E-commerce sites can see up to a 20% drop in conversion rates. That is a very huge chunk. This is a tool that allows you to check your site speed. It's a free tool from Google. To find it, you just need to search for Think with Google, Test My Site. If you'd prefer the link, please give us an email on marketing@shoreacademy.com, and I may actually throw a few bonus ones in there. Otherwise, you can also send us a message or post on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/shoreacademy. What this tool does is it allows you to see the average number of seconds it takes for the page to load. It's the URL that you insert into the tool. You can benchmark your site speed against competitors. And again, competitors is something that you can input yourself. You can evaluate the impact a faster site could have on your business. And here you would put in your advertising details and costs, and it would give you an estimation. It also gives you a really, really great breakdown of what you need to do to optimize pages on your site in terms of speed. All of the above information can be generated into a report based on Google's analysis and your inputs. Common website issues apart from speed that we just mentioned. Inefficient JavaScript. If you don't know what this means, that's absolutely fine. At the end of the day, this is not a web dev or web design course, but JavaScript is a kind of language that certain websites or many websites are written in. If you have inefficient JavaScript, you need to reduce this time spent parsing, compiling, and executing the code of your site. If you are not actually developing your site, then this is something you would send on to your developer. The word parse means to analyze an object specifically. Web scripts written in languages such as Perl or PHP need to be parsed on the web server so that they can output the correct HTML. And HTML is another kind of code or language that a site is written in, to a user's browser. Parsing can also refer to breaking up ordinary text. If this is the kind of thing that interests you, as in you would like to be able to do this as opposed to sending it off to a developer, then I would highly recommend that you do the website design and development courses at Shore Academy. Large image sizes. Gosh, that's like a mouthful. If you don't compress your site images, this will result in longer load times as larger files naturally take longer to load. You're trying to load an image, whether it's on a website or not. If it's big, then it will take forever to load, especially if you're on a slow machine or there's something wrong with your phone. So this is why it's very important not to have large image sizes on your site. You would compress them. Inefficient cache policy. I'm sure this image looks familiar to you. You can increase your cache lifetime to speed up your load time for returning users. So let's say that your cache is set to 30 days, meaning that you can keep track of someone visiting your site for the next 30 days. If you increase that to, let's say, 180 days, then for that period of time, whenever they go to your site, it will load a lot faster. Caching means storing recently used info for quicker access at a later time. Most web browsers cache website data by default, but you can have an effect on how long this cache is saved. As I mentioned in my example earlier, if you changed it from, let's say, 30 days to 180 days, then it will load faster for that amount of time. What I'd recommend here is actually also looking at your conversion window, if you're aware of what that is. Just to give you a quick reminder, a conversion window is the average number of days it takes for someone to convert. This differs hugely depending on the offering that you have, the product or service. So those are generally the top issues that mobile websites have. Again, it's something that the Google tool can pick up for you. Whether or not it makes sense to you is another story, and that's when you need to get someone like a web developer involved. Okay, so let's look at Google AMPs, and that is Accelerated Mobile Pages. What is AMP? According to Google, it's an open source HTML framework that provides a straightforward way to create web pages that are fast, smooth loading, and prioritize the user experience. HTML, because I've now mentioned it for the second time, it's a standardized system for tagging text files to achieve things like font, color, graphic, and hyperlink effects. So even if you aren't a developer, which I certainly am not, it is quite simple to understand. And if you actually visit the URL that you see, the amp.dev, you can play around with some live code that changes the demos as you make changes. Check it out, it's super fun. The site itself that you would visit if you go to amp.dev is built with AMP. So what makes a good mobile website after all that? When it comes to content, menus should be short. You need to make returning to the home page easy. For example, link with go back to home, your logo hyperlink to the home page, as well as making it easier for people to jump to the top of your site, especially if you have blogs or long content on your site. If someone's scrolling down forever in a day while they're reading, and then they have to do the same thing just to get back up to get somewhere else, that would be quite frustrating. Calls to action need to be front and center. You wouldn't want to put them below the fold. And what I mean by below the fold is that it's the part of your website that you can't see when you're loading your homepage. What you're looking at is above the fold. As soon as you scroll down, whatever's below that is below the fold. No pop-ups, also known as interstitials. They are super annoying, as I'm sure you can all agree. If you can't get rid of them all, at least limit them, but ideally exclude them completely. There are definitely other ways of getting people to pay attention in a good way, not in an annoying way. If we're looking, or if you have site search functionality, so within your site, people can search. You should ensure that the search bar is visible. I can't tell you how many times I've gone onto a site and the search bar has been on a white background with like a little gray magnifying glass, and I haven't been able to find it, and I've gotten so frustrated because of that. And well, it was right there. Had it been made more visible, then it would have saved me a lot of frustration. You need to make sure that the search results are relevant to what someone is searching for. Very quick example. If someone's searching for peaches, you don't want apples to come up. Include filters so that visitors can utilize them to make their search results almost more granular. Let's say, even if you're looking at a real estate site, you would want to have filters with price range, number of bedrooms, area, so that sort of thing that can be applied across any website. If a search receives no results, it's a good idea to guide them back to something useful as opposed to returning a not found page. You can link back to the search function. You can recommend trying something else. You can provide contact details, essentially just making the user experience a lot better. For retail sites, you need to enable them to explore your site without constantly being attacked by buy now messages. Allow them to look around and see what you have available. It's very good overall for the user experience. Allow a almost guest sign in for a purchase. So don't make it compulsory for someone to create a profile. Not many people are comfortable with that and would definitely choose a voluntary option versus a compulsory one. If you look at your competitors, for example, that could be the deciding factor between choosing you and between choosing them. Pricing and stock. You need to make sure that your pricing is very clear, as well as your stock availability. Again, nothing more frustrating than ordering something only to hear that it's out of stock. Make that information very visible from the get-go. High quality images. Goes without saying, you're in retail. You need to make sure that your website has the highest quality images while being compressed so that it's mobile friendly, but make them good. Include a click to call. Very nice if someone has an issue or they're not sure of something, then to be able for them to just click a button and call someone and have a supportive person on the other side of the phone. Very, very good for the user experience. You need to try and make it easy for people to complete cross-device purchases. And what I mean here is that many people will start a purchase on their mobile phones, but then want to finish it on their desktops. So if you can allow that functionality or that feature to take place more smoothly, then that's fantastic. A client of mine had a page on either desktop or mobile, and basically it would say, you were busy doing this thing 30 minutes ago, would you like to continue? And then you could, and if it was a purchase, you could carry on. And that was very smooth. It wasn't even something that I had to think about. I didn't have to log in. I didn't have to search for the product again or find my cart. It was all sorted for me. Great, great experience. Moving on to lead gen, recommendations for this would be streamlining. So essentially from your landing page to the submission of the form, it needs to be a smooth experience. A good lead or a hot lead can very quickly become cold. Simple input. So don't make them click lots of buttons or, check other things to just complete one form. Keep it as simple as you can. It would make your lives easier if you implemented real-time validation. So what I mean by that is when they put the email address in, it checks that it's a valid email address. When they put their contact number in, it checks that it is the right amount of digits, and so on. If you have quite a few questions on your form and not all of them are compulsory, then it's a good idea to mark the ones that are so that your potential customer is aware of them. Autocomplete should be enabled. So, someone who is filling out multiple forms, which they generally would be if they're on the hunt for something, can just easily input their information by choosing it from a drop-down. If you have a lead form with quite a lot of information, it would be a good idea to split that into different steps. So instead of having all your questions on one page, which could very easily put someone off, you would actually break that down and say, okay, step 1 is fill in your name, email address, and contact number. and then they'd have to select something to go to the next stage and the next stage, etc., until it's done. It's less overwhelming. And also, if you're telling them how far in they are to the process, then they're less likely to leave. If you were to just say step 2, out of how many? So you should say step 2 of 5, step 2 of 4, etc. Now we're going to look at some mobile apps and start off with a few stats. Apps are expected to generate $189 billion in revenue by 2020. There are more than 2.2 million apps on the Apple App Store, and there are more than 2.8 million apps on the Google Play Store. 21% of millennials open an app more than 50 times a day. Where do they have the time for this? The average smartphone owner uses 30 apps each month. I think I must be a bit of an anomaly because I think I have less than 10 apps on my phone. And for a digital marketing specialist, that's a bit strange, I guess. How many apps do you have on your phone? Moving on to different app types, we have native apps, and they are apps that have been developed for a single mobile operating system. So for example, it would be different, the code for the app would be different on an Android phone versus an iOS phone. Hybrid apps are apps that are built the same way for multiple operating systems. It's almost like the difference between mobile-friendly and responsive mobile sites. So the native one in this case, if we translate it to the website, would be responsive, and hybrid would be mobile-friendly. Then we have web apps, which are in-browser apps, and installing this really means bookmarking it. The benefits of a mobile app, there are many, but let's just go through some of the top ones. You would have increased visibility due to the fact that people can access your information at any time and with more convenience. There is more data to improve your marketing efforts. It's exactly that. You can accrue demographic data as well as create lists based on when customers last logged in, last engaged, and more. It provides value, more so if you introduce something like a loyalty program, but value can also be provided with relevant content. Building on brand loyalty, if someone has been having a good customer experience across all of your channels, they're more likely to remain loyal. So if you've got an app which can be accessed at any time, which provides value, then of course you're going to see a big spike in brand loyalty. Increased engagement, you can push this through ads, but you can also offer something like a support desk where they could direct any queries, good or bad, to you. Social features like in-app messaging or comments, sharing options can be implemented within apps. And finally, it complements your website. While both apps and websites attract new customers, a mobile app is more likely to create customer loyalty. So if recurring revenue is one of your main goals, you essentially don't have a choice in the matter. Go and create an app. Not right now, finish the lesson, but after the lesson, go and create an app. And here's that bonus content I was telling you about. We're going to look at different mobile marketing strategies, apart from the usual targeting. SMS marketing is not dead, hey? One of the main benefits of SMS marketing is that you can reach anyone, no matter what device they have. They don't have to have a smartphone in order to get advertising from you. If you're targeting low-income households, for example, SMS marketing should be part of your strategy without a doubt. The average open rate of an SMS is 90%, and they are generally read within 90 seconds of receiving them. RCS is Rich Communication Services. It's something to keep an eye on. It's an advanced form of SMS in that it allows users to group chat, video, see and send high-res images, and essentially act like a messaging app, for example, WhatsApp. RCS has been around since 2008, but has not yet been widely used. However, it's definitely seeing some increase in popularity. Google has just gotten onto it, so it's something to keep an eye out for. And if you jump on the bandwagon early, then you could actually be seeing lower costs. Vanity URLs are shortened URLs, generally with a keyword or a brand name. TinyCC or tiny.cc is a free option, obviously with some constraints as it is free. If you have UTMs embedded in your URL, so you would take your URL, you would make it a UTM, and then you would make it a short link using something either like tiny.cc, or you might be paying for an option. You can put that link into the SMS that you send, and then any clicks as a result of that SMS are tracked back to the SMS, which is fantastic. If you're a little bit unsure, go to tiny.cc again after this lesson, please, and put in any URL just so that you can see what it changes to. And it will still direct to the same thing, but people are less likely to click on very long, weird-looking URLs. They prefer short and sweet ones, and this solves that problem. Then we have app-based marketing. So we were just talking about apps. 90% of time on a smartphone is within an app. You can benefit from app install campaigns, which are essentially options across all the channels that I'm aware of, or all the top ones at least. Push notifications. These are different to campaigns as the notifications are sent through the app's server. So it's not an additional cost, it's just additional dev time. Engagement campaigns, which are available across quite a few channels. They are essentially campaigns which encourage engagement for someone that's already downloaded the app, but perhaps is not logged in for a certain amount of days or any kind of criteria that you specify. QR codes. The QR stands for quick response. They were declared dead 5 or so years ago, but the usage has not decreased. In fact, it has increased. Apple releasing an update in 2017 that allowed in-camera QR scanning. It totally changed the game in terms of QR codes and their decline. If you search for QR code generators, you'll most likely see a bunch of options, so go and have a look. 5.3 billion QR code coupons will be redeemed by 2022. 1 billion smartphones will access QR codes. Offline to online tracking, just like with the SMS tracking, it's pretty incredible. You could have, if you're in a brick and mortar store, if you are at a restaurant, then you can have various things directing to online pages, but that are being accessed offline. And again, this is trackable and measurable. The free QR code generators, I just mentioned those. Just look up that exactly, and then you can see what you can do. It's super quick and easy. In terms of the implementation of that strategy, it's another story, but something to keep in mind. Then we have location-based marketing. This is particularly effective for brick and mortar stores. You can target areas within a certain radius. If you have created and claimed your businesses, if you are a brick and mortar store, on Google Maps, for example, you can take that information or that location and you can target it very specifically to within the radius, or I think the minimum radius is 1 kilometer. And what you can do then is whenever someone is in your area, you could target them messages with promotions or specials or just getting to know your brand, and it's incredibly effective. It also complements your app-based marketing. So if you could have a campaign where it's targeting all your app engagers within specific areas around your businesses, if you're a brick and mortar store, and they will then be served promotions or whatever content you've decided as soon as they are within your area. What are we going to be covering in the next lesson? This is a really cool one. It's all about free marketing options. First, we're going to look at Google My Business pages, which I actually just mentioned. Then we're going to look at creating Facebook and LinkedIn pages or profiles, implementing basic SEO, as well as understanding it, and then free tools for design, SEO, and content, and perhaps a few others. A recap of what we covered in this lesson. We looked at the impact and necessity of mobile marketing, mobile site speed and Google's free tool, mobile-friendly site recommendations. Okay, and here I should actually clarify what I mean is mobile-friendly and responsive site recommendations, and the benefits of having an app. You've completed lesson 4 and you're 50% through module 1. You are awesome. Thanks so much for sticking with me. Bye guys.